Yes. I'll try and cut it a bit. Yeah, have I got like 3 minutes now? Okay, CRI, Copenhagen Resource Institute, we work with a lot with, we haven't had as long a background in textiles as Gert has in electronics, but we've been working on textiles for a couple of years now. There's been a lot of projects recently. We've got 4 projects right now with the Nordic Council. We had a project last year with Justesen on waste reductions and so on. How you can different like we produced an idea catalogue, which hopefully will be coming out soon. It's 6 months old now for how to reduce waste prevention in textiles. But anyway, just to really go quickly into this, it's a huge area, so it's going to be hard, but just quickly, why should we be looking at textiles? LCA studies show that it's after housing, food, and mobility, it's the 4th most environmentally impacting consumption cluster. And that's mostly production phase impacts, but there's also a lot in the laundry stages. It's growing, consumption is growing. It's not growing so much in terms of expenditure, but in volumes. And that's because the quality is going down in general. There's a lot more fast fashion, which means you're getting more, you're buying more kilos of textiles for the same money. So this is what's happening right now. The trends are an increase in volume, but a kind of fairly stable actual expenditure. So this is fast fashion happening. The impacts, another issue with this is that a lot of the impacts are happening elsewhere. So they're taking place in Asia. We all know about the difficult working environments as well for the people producing these textiles. It's quite difficult to influence from Denmark, but of course there are designers here and so on that can have some, and buyers that can have some influence. But on the positive side, there are resources in the existing, what we actually have on us now, which can be used to then offset production in Asia. So through reuse particularly, but also potentially through recycling, we can offset production in Asia to a certain extent and reduce the production impacts there. So that's the whole, it's not so much, there's not a problem with textiles waste in itself, it's not an issue in Denmark. The issue is that using this waste for going back into products, you can then offset new production. That's the key. There's already a healthy reuse market, as Kai will tell you about. And also the textiles industry, the fashion industry is extremely innovative. They're very good at finding new solutions to problems and also communicating this to the consumer. So in that way, we've got a lot of potential. Looking at some facts and figures, 89,000 tons of clothing and home textiles are put on the market in Denmark each year. That's 16 kilos per capita. And this actually a really healthy 41,000 tons are collected by charities and by other actors. So that's 45%. It's actually a pretty healthy, pretty thriving industry already. Wouldn't maybe call it industry, but a thriving system. Of this, 12,000 tons are reused and a little bit recycled in Denmark. 23,000 tons are exported. It's not totally clear what happens to that, but all that can be reused will be reused, because that's what the value is. The value is in the reuse. A lot of the stuff is exported because they're not stuff that's sellable in Denmark, but is sellable elsewhere, in Eastern Europe or in Africa, or at least donated. I should say I'm generalizing a lot here about things. There's nuances everywhere. So I know Kai's going to say a lot of, probably stick his hand up a few times at the end here, and others will as well. But I have to generalize because I've only got a few minutes. So this was the positive in some ways aspects, but the negative is that 24,000 tons of textiles still find their way into mixed waste, and that's incinerated. A significant part of this could have been reused. There's also 18,000 tons which we just can't account for. So we just don't know where it is. I mean, this 24,000 tons, we're making an estimate from sampling and so on, but there's 18,000 tons, we just don't know where it's going. And it could be it's being accumulated, it could be that it's just sitting in wardrobes. I mean, we see these Pelican storage facilities opening up everywhere. It could be it's just being accumulated. And finally, the non-reusable textiles, right now, are not being recycled. They're being downcycled or incinerated. So they're being made into insulation, upholstery, that kind of thing. They're not being made back into new clothing, new home textiles products. So these are the...
Is this from home, is it from clothes and...
yeah, it's home textiles and clothing. So, yeah, not carpets. No. So we're losing resources, a lot of resources. So, principles for improvement on this. First of all, it's pretty obvious, but sometimes you forget, textiles follow the waste hierarchy. And for those who don't know what that means, extending product life, extend reuse, and other ways of extending product life is always better than recycling. Always. Because you're offsetting the whole production chain. And recycling, so by that I mean closed loop recycling back into the same kind of products, is better than downcycling, it's better than incineration, environmentally, but also value-wise. You're going to get way more value from this than you are from this. Way more money. You're going to be able to sell it for more. So you shouldn't forget this. So when companies talk about let's recycle our fibers, this is more important. That's the secondary element. So another principle before taking this kind of more into depth, increasing the active lifetime of products. So this first part of the principle. So right now, this is a lot of the time what's happening. One user buys it, then they pop it in their wardrobe for a while, and then maybe they'll throw it out when they move house. And then it ends its life. What could happen is that when they're tired of it, then it comes into the next person's use. So this is, we need ways of it's already happening to a certain extent. As we saw, 41,000 tons are being donated each year, but it could be used more. So there's a lot of emerging models for how to activate this kind of functional lifetime of the product to make it more active. And these are, for example, resale of used own brand. Philip & Co, they take back their own products, then they resell them in their own shop. They're making double on the same product. It's not a bad business model. Then you have the kind of what's now become quite very well established, resale by charity. Then you have luxury second-hand, which has been popping up recently, where they take a commission for selling your old second-hand but very high-quality coat, and then you get your money after they've sold it. Then there's exchange between consumers. We all know this. Flea markets have been around for years and years. Now swap markets are appearing. Online, DBA, trend sales, and so on. Then leasing is very small, but it's slowly starting to increase. Nike are also discussing going into this now. But at the moment it's mostly mud, leasing fleeces and jeans and so on. Then there's clothing libraries. One's just opened up on Spell in Copenhagen. Share, and there's Recycling also in Copenhagen. There's probably one in Jutland, I think, in Aarhus. Shared wardrobes, which is kind of like a clothing library, but it's online. So you put up pictures up of your clothing, and then people say, I want to borrow that, and then you send it to them, and then you borrow someone else's. And repair shops, which is very traditional, but is kind of tending to die out. So some of these are new, some of them are established, and some of them are disappearing. But there's a lot of models which which are there, which can activate this second, third, and fourth life. And all of them are creating jobs locally, because all of them involve transactions which need to take place here. So if you're leasing, you need someone to take it back to wash it before it gets sent out, before it gets used by the new user. The same with clothing lines. It needs people to be there to help with the exchanges. And these kind of business models are more labor intensive than, say, the traditional make, wear, throw away. So these are much more job intensive. But the thing is that the jobs have to be local. You don't send your clothing off to Indonesia to be repaired. This, of course, sets up a few issues with challenges. One of them is that there's this unfavorable price differential. People cost money. And then you have this, that people don't cost much, like labor doesn't cost much money in Asia. So you have this kind of misbalance between, is it kind of effective for me to take my jacket to be repaired, or shall I just buy a new one? And for a lot of products, because they're so low quality, it's just better to buy a new one. And this is where the lack of quality comes in as well. This really challenges a lot of these, because a lot of these types of businesses, they depend on these products lasting a long time. So if they're low quality, then you can't keep reselling, you can't keep reusing. So there's a connection between these two, because if you have high quality products, if you're pushing the general quality of products up, this will actually balance up this price differential. It'll make more sense to repair your product or to have it leased. Then the second is increasing the durability quality, of course. So that's where this comes in. So instead of being able to use a product twice, maybe, or even just once with fast fashion, you can use it many more times. So this is also a way of getting more value out of it, and more use of the resources. So it's a hugely important issue, this thing about quality, increasing the quality in general. And then finally, and this is kind of the back end, closed loop recycling. It doesn't happen right now. It hardly happens. It only happens with polyester, pure polyester products. That, for example, Puma have their own recycling of pure polyester products. But if you've got any kind of product fiber mix, it can't really be done right now. The technology doesn't exist to do it. There's some Renewcell in Sweden. They're trying to develop some chemical recycling for natural fibers and fiber mixes, which they break down into viscose, and that can go back into products. But there's also mechanical recycling, which is trying to split up the fibers and then reuse that. But right now they're still in the embryo phase, a lot of these different technologies, and we need these for the end point. It shouldn't take over on this part. We shouldn't be looking to then reduce the functional lifetime again because we've got this closed loop recycling, but so that we're not missing the final part, which is to get the fibers out and into new products again. And this can be there's a huge potential to develop this in the Nordic area, which will be, again, job creating. We have this chicken and egg problem. There's no separate collection of non-reusable textiles. There's a lack of technology for recycling. The technology needs big quantities, but no one's collecting it because there's no market. So there's a chicken and egg. And the potential solution is an extended producer responsibility, like with the weed, but for textiles. And that could be mandatory, it could be voluntary. We're right now looking at different means for implementing this. There's also solutions in terms of support. A lot of these business models need support. They need lots of different kinds of support. And then one of these would be policy instruments to drive equality would be one of the potential things. And then R&D and investments in recycling technology. So these are kind of challenges. These are areas where there can be solutions which can improve the situation and meet these challenges. And we have a lot of ideas for policy here. So, yeah.